very exciting story to tell you about this afternoon. We have discovered a new district, mining district in southwestern Mongolia, and are on the cusp of first production in 2025. So we're first movers in an unexplored portion of one of the world's great mineral belts, the Central Asian Orogenic Belt. Began exploring there almost 20 years ago, and that's paying dividends today. We have a high-grade mine under construction, as I mentioned, multi-million-ounce potential. We formed a powerful alliance with what we believe to be Mongolia's strongest mining company, and we have a sleeping giant in the Zuun Mod molybdenum copper porphyry project. As I mentioned, we began exploration almost 2 decades ago in Mongolia, but I'll just note this study that came out from the USGS in 2010 that identified this region in the Central Asian Orogenic Belt as having the highest potential for copper and gold discoveries, but the remoteness, the harsh terrain, the infrastructure limitations resulted in lack of exploration. We had been there for a decade by the time they issued this study, so we were well ahead of the curve, and as I mentioned, that's really paid dividends today. But what's happened when you look at this growing body of work that's identified this new geologic terrain is the infrastructure came along. You've seen mines being built, blacktop highways, railways in Mongolia and encroaching from the Chinese side. So that's changed dramatically as well. Our district includes 3 main project areas: Bayan Khundii, where the mine is being built, 16 kilometers north, Altan Nar, and 35 kilometers east of that, Zuun Mod. I'll just note that railway passing through the center of the slide. That's a planned railway that will connect with the Chinese border, 240 kilometers to the southeast. Our partner is Mongolian Mining Corporation. This is Mongolia's largest publicly traded miner, a $1 billion market cap on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Their largest shareholder, MCS Group, provides a number of affiliated companies that allow us to build out this mining district. They bring road builders, they bring mining construction companies, power transmission line companies. In fact, they're building today a 240-kilometer long power line to our site. So we've really put together this team that's brought the exploration and expertise and the mining expertise to build this out. The deal we struck is outlined on this page. We formed a 50-50 joint venture with MMC, but we've retained back from that a 5% NSR that will kick in after the first 400,000 ounces of gold. When you look at this as being a multi-mine, multi-commodity district, that 5% NSR will be critical to the value for our shareholders. And then outside of that as well, we maintained 100% interest in the Zuun Mod molybdenum copper project. We're fully funded. We have $170 million available to us, brought in by Mongolian Mining Corporation, both in equity and debt, and also just in December struck a deal with Trade and Development Bank for another $50 million line that's available to us. The project will come in around $110 million, so fully cushioned for building this out to first gold later this year. So the Bayan Khundii project itself, you can see the plant under construction in this image. This is an extremely high-grade open pit opportunity. Our head grade will be 4 grams per ton, so 4 times what you see as an average grade globally. We have the main pit at Bayan Khundii, a satellite pit to the north, but about 10 kilometers of structure that's unexplored that I'll come back to. We really took the approach of let's get the cash flow, let's avoid the public markets, the trouble we've had raising equity at good valuations. Let's get this to cash flow and we'll start our exploration aggressively. The site, as you see it this past couple of weeks, you see on the left-hand side the planned pit. This was designed at $1,800 gold, so plenty of room for expansion, which I'll come back to. First in Mongolia, integrated dry waste facility, overhead transmission line now almost fully complete. And this is a carbon and pulp plant, fully enclosed, which doesn't face some of the issues you see with the heat bleaching in the colder weather climates. 93% recovery on that plant. Some of the specific progress we've made on various facilities at site. We expect to be tying this all together as we move through the end of Q1 into Q2, commissioning through that period into first gold in Q3, commercial as we move towards the end of Q3. That commercial production will come out at about 67,000 ounces in year 1. By the time we're into year 2, we'll be hitting steady state about 87,000 ounces. And as you can see here, we have a 6-year reserve, but I'll come back to what that pipeline looks like because I have no hesitation in saying this is a long life opportunity, and I think you'll understand that when you see the upside in the resources and the unexplored areas. High margin, low cost mine as you would expect at 4 grams per ton. I would point out the 170 million NPV that's highlighted here. This was at $1,800 gold, and if you look at where it is based on today's gold price, that's more than doubled. We're looking at about a 400 million NPV. About half of that is attributed to us, given the 50-50 nature. So about a $200 million value to us today at current gold prices. But our share price today is about 70% of that. And when you look at what's coming up in the pipeline that isn't valued into that market capitalization, that's where this gets exciting. We have the Bayan Khundii project, as I've just run through, but the discoveries we've had at Ulaan, Dark Horse, Altan Nar, and Zuun Mod really add the gravy to this, and let me just touch on that briefly. The grades of these discoveries, you can see the gram meter maps or numbers on the right-hand side of the tables. Not unusual for us to be hitting 200 to 600 gram meters in each of the 3 discoveries we've made to date, with 10 kilometers of largely unexplored trend. There's a 5-kilometer area outlined in this section. You can see the pits, but superimposed on that is the gold shells and tremendous room for upside. In October, we published some results from holes 200 meters to the west of the planned pit, and you can see here the intersections, 40 meters of 7 grams, 20 meters of 6 grams. I mean, these are grades that underground miners get excited about, and we're sitting within 150 meters of surface. Plenty of room for expansion at depth, whether that's higher gold price that pushes that or expansions. Our most recent discovery, half a kilometer to the west, which isn't yet in a resource estimate, intersected 50 meters of 3.5 grams in our first hole. We've had up to 40 meters of 8. You don't see it on this slide, but this was a blind top discovery at 80 meters. It's open at depth. We drilled a few holes to 450 meters, and we're still in over half a gram of gold. So tremendously well-endowed systems. 2.5 kilometers north of the Bayan Khundii pit, we have Dark Horse, 7-gram material sitting at surface that'll go into that mine in year 3, but several kilometers of unexplored potential that we need to get to as we move forward. 16 kilometers north, the Altan Nar deposit, our first discovery back in 2011, has kind of sat off to the side because we've been so well rewarded at Bayan Khundii. We focused there. But today it has 500,000 ounces of 2 grams in an open pit opportunity, 3 million ounces of silver and 200 million pounds of lead and zinc, and is bagging for more exploration. Zuun Mod, 35 kilometers to the north, as I mentioned. This was our first acquisition in the area, and it also has sat somewhat idle. This needs the infrastructure, but that infrastructure is coming. This deposit is one of the world's largest undeveloped molybdenum deposits, and we're right next door to the largest consumer who went into deficit last year in their molybdenum needs. So a real opportunity here. There's about $10 billion in in-situ metal value in that deposit in molybdenum and copper, and we're very excited to get going on that as we start to get the cash flow to do that. So 5-year plan, focus on getting first gold, first cash flow, allows us to unlock these other opportunities, which includes the low-hanging fruit around the Bayan Khundii deposit, the Altan Nar deposit. Collectively, I see those as giving us 150 to 200,000 ounces per year. We'll get moving on Zuun Mod this year and continue to look at the opportunities in this new district that's never before seen exploration. In terms of the corporate side, we have a very strong shareholder base. Eric Sprott leads the register at 19%, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development at 8%, a host of institutions in Asia, the US, and Europe. Very strong retail base in Eastern Canada. We as management own about 7%. We're also listed on the Mongolian Stock Exchange, where we wanted to share the benefits with Mongolian investors. We have had a very solid year in terms of return, about an 84% return on share price. Over the last 5 years, that's closer to about 220%. So where do we go from here? I see us continuing to get a re-rating as we move towards that first gold, as you'd expect to see, but really what excites me and the foundation of what we built here is to get to the exploration in this very interesting, exciting new district. Thank you very much for your time.